Team icebreaker Ginny Rutledge takes a swim. It's good to see Linda Paulson at home on the river she has trained and raced on at the Brass Monkey events. Starting early for coast training in midwinter with friends and clubs helps set you right for the big day. The Brass Monkey Winter Series has been running for 30 years on the Waimakariri, and it's a great way to gain valuable river time. This is such an important part of your kayak training. If you want to be fast on whitewater, you need a solid Grade 2 and heaps of river time. For North Islanders, the Mahaka and Rangatiki rivers offer excellent Grade 2 whitewater. If you need some good coaching or guiding, either on the Waimak or in the North Island, talk to Rob Howarth at Canoe and Kayak North Shore. Linda's holding her technique, which will help keep up her speed. We have another swimmer as Dave and Nilu are back in the kayak and making for the gorge. On moving water, you need to pick the right line and keep the power down for the rudder to be effective. Get it wrong and you drift down the river in the river's control. And when it comes to it, being in the river's control is not really a good place to be. If you embark on your Grade 2 training and think eddy turns are a waste of time, then check out this guy. Let's just call him Mr. Anonymous. He gets caught in an eddy and fails to rail his kayak when he re-enters the main flow. The result is a swim right at the beginning of the gorge. Unlucky, mate. Just when you think you've left the bump and rush of traffic congestion, wrong. Here we are at the Hamilton Rapid, your chance to smile for the camera, and you are nearly at the halfway point. Hamilton Rapid has a big reputation. However, there is generally a clean line down the centre-left channel, but if you head down the middle, watch out for that big rock and stop a wave. Hugh Bainan from TV3 Sports Tonight takes a swim.
I was paddling as hard as I could down that fierce one over there when a huge gust of wind flipped me over, and here I am on the side drying off, and I've lost a GoPro in the process. So anyway, get some dry clothes on, back into it, it's all part of it. You got to tip once on the Waimakariri, what's the point in coming down if you don't? Hey. It is freezing. I was cold anyway when I was dry, and I was just thinking maybe I should stop off and put some warmer clothes on, and then, well, fate intervened, and here I am. Lovely. Oh, helmet would help, eh?
Nearly there, eh?
Nope.
Quite a way to go, actually.
About halfway.
Halfway to that whole course. Oh, yeah.
4 hours ago, the Mount White kayak transition was the epicentre for hundreds of two-day athletes as they started the 67-kilometre kayak down the majestic Waimakariri. Now it's time for the big guns.
Credit to the two fastest runners into Klondike Corner, Braden Curry and James Cooper did an awesome mountain run. Hot on the heels of course is Richard Usher, and I must say he's looking pretty fresh. I reckon he's going to chase them down on the middle bite. Dougal Allen was a wee way back, but who knows, he might be able to catch them yet.
Braden Curry leads onto the river. Can he pull out another stage surprise by holding out Usher on the river? He certainly looks game to try. Over the 30 years since Robin Judkins ran the first Coast to Coast, a whole industry has formed around the event, none bigger than specialty multi-sport racing kayaks. After 3 decades of improvements, these 6-metre carbon Kevlar speedsters weigh in as little as 10 kilograms, but they're not for the faint of heart. Ba-boom! Richard Usher on the move, passing Cobra on the cycle and starting the kayak just 2 minutes 19 seconds behind Curry. James Cobra is taking a more leisurely pace, refuelling before entering the kayak. It's not a bad idea as eating and paddling is no easy feat. His slower ride could simply show that he was feeding up before the longest leg of the race. He's away, 90 seconds after Usher. Dougal Allen will be hoping he can pull out a super fast paddle and last cycle because he now has 13 minutes to make up on Curry. We go on board with Allen to see the action as close as it gets, thanks to Go Bandit cameras. Carl Bevins has an executive support crew in former Triathlon New Zealand CEO Dave Beach and Tri-NZ event director Hayley Stratford, Carl's wife. Let's hope it doesn't jinx him into taking a swim. It's all New Zealanders vying for the World Championship title, but there's also the honour of being first international. Frenchman Jackie Boisset is holding that lead, but he's new to multisport and has had little time to master the fast, tippy kayaks. Alina Usher is setting such a pace that she's near the top 10 overall. Judging by her run, she should have a healthy lead over second. There's a real battle between Mimi and Fleur Pawsey. Women's leader Alina Usher continues to push hard.
In the women's race, Alina's edging away. She's got a 9-minute lead on Fleur Pawsey as we go into the kayak here at Mount White Bridge. Now, duking it out in second place though is Mimi from France with Fleur, and Mimi's about 50 seconds behind Fleur as we start the kayak. They've got a long kayak ahead of them and there's developed a bit of a headwind along with a low river flow, which means it's going to be a really long paddler's race this year.
Allen is now into the gorge. If you get into trouble here, the only way out is to get back in your boat or to get a jet boat rescue. You're many kilometres from the nearest road access or farmhouse. Most of the elite racers have a good kayak roll in their arsenal to right the kayak and continue on the journey. Here at Gorge Bridge, we wait for the first two-day kayaker to arrive. And it's top kayaker Ian Huntsman. He's taken on this year's Speight's Coast to Coast as a two-day individual, so it's no surprise to see him hold off the team's charge and make Gorge Bridge in the lead. Daniel Bush is second, and with team member Stephen McKinstry is now leading the team's race, with a slim margin over yesterday's leaders Matt Blundell and Trevor Voice. Stephen McKinstry carries the lead through the 70-kilometre cycle all the way to Sumner, and they win the team's title for 2012. Nathan Jones overtook yesterday's individual leader Nathan Bell to win the two-day, while Tony Keeling holds out a powerful paddle by Olivia Spencer-Bauer to win the women's race. She has done it. This is an amazing story. Legally blind athlete Nilu Mimon has crossed the country, all 243 kilometres over the Alps in a shade over 21 hours. Nilu has shown us that with a dream, a plan, a pile of training, dedication and the help of others, anything is possible, impaired or not. Well done, Nilu and the team. What an inspiration.
This is a mad race. It took every ounce of strength.
Another one in here.
But the team, they've been magical. They've made it possible for me, and they've motivated me, and God, every time that I've been just about to give up, these guys, the whole team that have been working with me, they've made it possible. Absolutely stoked. And the value of this kind of stuff, the support that these guys are giving me, to enable me to do anything I want. My dreams are pretty limitless when I have support.
3 hours after he started paddling, the familiar figure of Richard Usher is the first World Championship athlete we have seen on the lower reaches of the Waimakariri Gorge. This can only mean one thing: he has caught and passed Braden Currie to take the overall lead. Such is Usher's versatility. As well as taking multi-sport World Championships, he holds the fastest ever time for a Kiwi in Ironman distance racing, 8 hours 2 minutes. The race for second is now between Braden Currie and James Cobra, trailing Usher by about 5 minutes. In the 2-day race last year, Cobra led the entire field to Klondike. Then, on the second day, it took the team athletes until the road to Christchurch to overtake him. So chances are he has something still left in the tank. Dougal Allen is about 8 minutes back, so his work is really cut out to get on the podium for a third year.
So this year, the river's in one of the lowest flows I've ever seen it. That makes it really long and slow. That's because the river's moving slower, but it's also shallower water, which is more drag for their kayaks. So this is going to play into the stronger paddlers' hands, and I think that's where Richard will have an advantage.
Alina Usher's lead has extended further to about 15 minutes. So barring an incident on the paddle to Gorge Bridge or on the last cycle, her second World Championship win is looking likely. Woodstock is less than an hour from the end of the kayak. Usher still leads, but Cobra now has the upper hand on Currie. Allen's next a few minutes back. It'll take time splits at Gorge Bridge. The top internationals are going hard, with Australian Grant Suckling now ahead of the Frenchman Jackie Boisset. Close behind is Alina Usher, who's not easing up either. Leading the race in a remote spot like this, you never know if your fellow competitors are closing or not. The crowd has gathered at Gorge Bridge to see this guy, the multi-sport legend Richard Usher at work. Just 70 kilometres of cycling stands between Usher and his 5th multi-sport World Championship title. Even if Allen again pulls off the quickest bike leg, he's too far back surely to be any threat. He's also won many mountain runs and kayak races and been in numerous winning adventure racing teams. Back in 1998, he even represented New Zealand at the Winter Olympics in freestyle skiing. James Cobra is now 6 minutes off the lead. He's a very experienced whitewater paddler and has managed to give Braden Currie the slip. It's looking about 3 minutes as Currie comes around the corner. Currie pushed Usher hard in the Australian Anaconda Series races, but today's race is much longer. Still, he's put in a stellar effort to lead over the run and down to the gorge. Has he got more fight in him? As time ticks away for Dougal Allen, so do his chances of standing on the podium for a third straight year. Closing 7 minutes on the ride to catch third is a big ask, but if anyone can, it's Allen. Suckling still leads the internationals, with Boisset another 16 minutes back.
3 big ones, 1. Looking good, Jackie, keep going.
Alina Usher won the Stormlash 2010 Speight's Coast to Coast, which took to the road because of heavy flooding. If she can hold this lead to Sumner Beach, she'll have her first World Championship win over the true course.
lines who probably his wife is doing the same thing with her 21 minute second place woman in the International World Championship event of this
24 minutes now separate Fleur Pawsey with just a minute back to Mimi, proving her world class in multisport as well as adventure racing. Now we have Rachel Cashin closing on the podium, less than 10 minutes back. There's a fresh headwind, so it's a hard way to finish the day. "70 kilometres into the wind with no drafting allowed. After 12 hours of racing, Cashin is riding visibly faster, but does she have enough road to move up in the placings? Usher, meanwhile, is having the perfect day. She covered her key competition in the first cycle, then edged away from Pawsey on the run. She stretched her advantage on the Waimakariri River and is doing so again on the bike. There's been no sign of weakness at all. Christchurch has come out in force to cheer on race leader Richard Usher as he flies through the outskirts of the city. He'll be savouring this despite the pain. The race for the lower steps of the podium is right here, with Dougal Allen on the move. Can he catch Cobra and Curry? Cobra has been overtaken by Curry, and he's indicating he's having gear problems. So close and yet so far, with Curry right there. Our race leader Richard Usher is now riding through Christchurch, and what a change a year on from the earthquake. Buildings are gone, and patches of heavily corrugated roads make for a far rougher ride than usual. It's crucial to keep paying attention to avoid a puncture or worse, a crash. Usher passes two-day athlete Mike Ward, who's about to complete his 29th Spates Coast to Coast. On one side, Usher is flanked by Sumner Beach. On the other, rows of shipping containers that hold back the earthquake rubble. And he does it. Richard Usher, arguably the most talented multi-sport athlete ever, has won his 5th Spates Coast to Coast world title. He let the young guns go on the run and then pulled them back in the mid-cycle and kayak to take the lead. Usher hasn't just raced with power today, he's raced smart.
Not concentrating. That's right, it's cool.
The irrepressible Mike Ward completes his 29th Coast to Coast. And it's not the last we'll see of this man. Yes, he's done it. Dougal Allen has overturned an 8-minute deficit to ride past James Cobra and Braden Curry into the runner-up spot. Allen is 19 minutes behind Usher, but he's got to be happy with that result. The man who led the race over Goat Pass and onto the Waimakariri, Braden Curry, finishes in 3rd, 5 minutes after Allen, just like his brother Glenn last year. First last year in the 2-day and 4th in his first World Championship race. We can expect a lot more from Lower Hutt builder James Cobra in the years to come. First international goes to Grant Suckling from Australia in 9th, then Jackie Boisset from France in 12th, and UK Coast to Coast champion Andy Blow 16th. However, the best finish line celebration must go to Blow, who's worn an engagement ring across the entire country to then propose to his girlfriend Lucy.
I had to prove I was man enough first, and I think doing that probably proves it.
I don't know which hand it goes on. Is it right or left?
Yeah, it was everything I thought it'd be and more. Phenomenal.
And she's come out 25 minutes.
After many attempts, Alina Russia can finally celebrate winning on the full Spates coast-to-coast course. Also this year, Alina and Richard are the first husband and wife to win in the same year.
It's really cool. I'm very happy now. I have one Plan B course and now this a real one, so I'm very happy. Yeah, it's great that we finally managed to both win in the same year, so there's no crying tonight. I think I was probably putting some pressure on Fleur because I managed to have a good run, because that's, I think, her strength. So yeah, and then I'm very glad with my battle time, or not time, but how the battle went. So I was, I think, making up some time there.
Second woman is Spates coast-to-coast champion Fleur Pawsey, 23 minutes behind Usher. Pawsey led into the run and spent much of the race duelling with adventure race world champion Mimi Guillot of France.
Right, you got here. You got here.
Hang in there.
You hang in there. Good on you.
Surprise, surprise, Rachel Cashin has ridden past Guillot to claim third.
The hardest day. Thank God I'm third. I did it. Or just before I left home, I decided that trying to build a house, be a mother, work and train for coast to coast, I think is probably a wee bit much. That's it. Till next year.
Guillot has had an incredible race, very competitive against the world's best on a course she's unfamiliar with.
That's it. Come on in.
I just had a bad start and I felt very sick on my stomach for the whole day and suffering and could not eat, could not drink. It was a hard day. It's good learning though.
Yeah, it's always hard with the young guys because they don't, you know, you tend to think, well, they might not have the legs for the full day, but some of them are just so fast, you know, at individual disciplines. And this year was kind of different because there were some really fast runners and those guys could also paddle and bike. So you always have to approach it that, you know, and think about what's going to happen if those guys have the best possible day that you think they could, and you have to make a bit of a plan around that and try and sort of counteract it. So
the run at the start, the 3K run, was blooming hoofing it, and I was kind of second onto my bike, but couldn't get just not good at transition, so it took me a while to get my cleats into my shoes, and by that stage 6 or so riders had got in front of me, and so yeah, I never was going to get in that front group.
Well, I sort of I spoke to my friend who was third last year, Glenn Curry, the day before, and he said, mate, we know you can get second, why don't you just put it all out there? And I thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I just went really hard from the start and encouraged a few cyclists to, you know, put it out there on the first ride and keep it honest. And
you know, everyone was sort of rolling through on our bunch, and then we sort of just kept shedding people. I think we were down to about 4 or 5 people when we got into transition, but quite nervous going into the run, you know, to see sort of how much time I was potentially going to lose.
Right.
Yeah, it's always hard with the young guys because they don't, you know, you tend to think, well, they might not have the legs for the full day, but some of them are just so fast, you know, at individual disciplines. And this year was kind of different because there were some really fast runners, and those guys could also paddle and bike. So you always have to approach it that, you know, and think about what's going to happen if those guys have the best possible day that you think they could, and you have to make a bit of a plan around that and try and sort of counteract it. So
the run at the start, the 3K run, was blooming hoofing it, and I was kind of second onto my bike, but couldn't get just not good at transition, so it took me a while to get my cleats into my shoes, and by that stage 6 or so riders had got in front of me, and so yeah, I never was going to get in that front group.
Well, I sort of I spoke to my friend who was third last year, Glenn Curry, the day before, and he said, mate, we know you can get second, why don't you just put it all out there? And I thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So I just went really hard from the start and encouraged a few cyclists to, put it out there on the first ride and keep it honest. And
everyone was sort of rolling through on our bunch, and then we sort of just kept shedding people. I think we were down to about 4 or 5 people when we got into transition, but quite nervous going into the run, to see sort of how much time I was potentially going to lose.
Right, and just go hard from the start and caught up with Dougal and Richard, and just which was good because I didn't really know the way through the top part of the run.
Got into the run, just wanted to put my foot down and give it a good shot. So just took it sort of reasonably easy on the way up, and then got over the top and just really tried to stretch it out. And felt really good off the run.
Ran probably a bit beyond myself, going up Goat Pass, and sort of paid for that from about 20 minutes before Goat Pass.
Usher passed me after halfway down the other side, and I managed to catch him up.
Braden and James never really got that far ahead, and so being able to see them coming off the run was quite good. And
got into the kayak and put about an hour and a half in when Rich caught me up, and really started to hurt after that.
But I just tried to be really conservative for the first part of the paddle. It was obvious it was going to be headwind the whole way, and I didn't want to sort of just spend the energy too soon. And so every sort of 10k I just sort of started upping it a little bit and a little bit, and it took me a lot longer to catch Braden. I didn't catch Braden until the start of the gorge, basically.
But I just got really distracted as soon as I found water coming on board, and it was just coming on too fast to keep it out. I had to get out halfway through the paddle and empty what seemed like 100 litres of water out of my boat because I was getting cold.
So just worked hard in the kayak and got caught up again and was sitting in third.
I paddled really hard from Woodstock out. It sounds like I made a little bit of extra time there, and probably about 5k to go, and there were quite a few people who were like, "Oh, you've got a massive lead," and with 5k to go, if you have a puncher, you can just ride on the rim.
I mean, I was getting splits from Newstalk ZB, so I started to realise that I was gaining on them, which I didn't really believe initially, but it seemed to be pretty genuine. By the time I was sort of 3 minutes behind them, I thought this is getting pretty real. So it's one of those things where you only get one chance at it, so I wasn't going to go past them with any hesitation. I had to make it look like I was on a mission, which I was, but it's about 5 minutes after that I really started to feel the pinch again.
Yeah, you can never really afford to to think it's in the bag until you cross that finish line, and it was fantastic to be able to sort of enjoy it a little bit this year, and the people at the finish line and all through Christchurch who were out on the streets, just unbelievable support. It's just amazing.
Oh, it was a relief. I was looking forward to the finish shoot from about the start of the run. It was just one of those days where I just wasn't feeling the love. I was probably mentally a bit fatigued, but physically I just felt like I only had about 3 gears. So to get to the finish line was a relief more than anything, but also very satisfying given the result.
I think with James and Braden and Dougal, those guys are going to be having some epic battles over the next few years, that's for sure. I don't know what we'll be up to next year, but I think Alina and I will always support this race in some form, whether it's in the longest day or whether we team up or we do a 2-day or something else.
Yeah, it's tough race, long day, like they say. Run is so beautiful. Yeah, it makes a good race because you cross the island from west to east, and yeah, it's good.
As the sun sets on the 30th Spates coast to coast, a steady stream of athletes cross the line, sink a Spates, get their finisher's medal, and then wander down to touch the East Coast Ocean. They've crossed the South Island of New Zealand, Tasman Sea to Pacific Ocean, with their own effort and determination. It's a lifetime milestone for many of these athletes, and be sure there's no easy way to race 243 kilometres. It is a huge achievement.
Good
to see you, brother. Good to see you, mate.
Come on, now, there we go, here we go. All of you. There's the photo down there.
Hello, sweetheart.
Joe Sheriff is 60 years old and completes the longest day. He won the very first Coast to Coast 30 years ago, then came back 25 years later and did a quicker time.
The oldest woman in the race.
Two-day winner Tony Keeling's mum, Christine, completes the longest day.
Mum and daughter, whoa! Can we have another
Former All Black Dallas Seymour crosses the finish line in just under 17 hours. He reckons it's the hardest thing he's ever done.
Oh, mate. I'll be back for another one. Just give me a couple of months to think about it. Thanks, Eddie.
Well done.
You're awesome, mate. Thanks, buddy.
And the final word? Well, that goes to Mike Conza, our last competitor home.
Yeah, and I'm happy to get that over and done. It's quite an achievement to have the longest day in the longest day, so I'll have that as my moniker now.
More amazing people with amazing stories. And if you want to be a part of it, get out and join a local club. Enjoy the wonderful outdoors. And we might see you again on the start line in February 2013. Where you going? Sit down. Stay in your seats. We've got more.
Are you ready? We're about to start. It's the World Champs, Spates Coast to Coast 30th anniversary. Got a lot of internationals here this year. It's going to be excellent. Nah, fuck. Shit. I paused.
Take 5, 6, 7.
Here we are at the start of the Spates Coast to Coast World Champs 30th anniversary. It's the
Do you want me to do it for you, Steve?
Yeah, mate. You're much better shape than me. In just a few